Right, time for another little update. I have been working on the car. I've had some time, because it's summer, I've had some time off, going away for weekends, etc. But, so, I'm looking at actually doing the electric roof. But we need to get over some problems first. Primarily, the first problem for me was being able to lock and unlock the deck lid automatically. So, I had to refabricate our latches. So this has all been stripped down, and instead of a stamped hollow tube here, which the latch would then just freely just move around on, it's now fixed and welded, and it has a solid bar going through with another finger. And effectively what that does is, so you've got the original one which still does the release, just like that, and then we have this one which now will lock it, just like cranking a gun really, isn't it, I suppose. That's going to be done via, well, the automatic side will be door poppers. They're £110 rated, quite strong. I've actually got one of these pull scales, and they're well within the range, so I know they can do that. This one, because it needs a float, so if you imagine that, so without any action at all, that needs to be able to spring down, so it can't have anything tight on this while it's moving, like a cable holding it, because it needs to be able to do that. The idea is to have like a steam train, you know, they've got the arms which do the 360 movement. I need 28mm of float. In other words, we go from that point to that point, needs to be 28mm. So if you can imagine, when it's the bar on this unit is here, that means there's slack on the latch. Once it's gone that way, there is no slack on the cable. What will happen is the wheel will rotate, doesn't really matter that way or that way, and it will literally then pull the cable like a brake cable and then put it back up, which will then latch it in. These are the motors I'm going to use. I'm going to use these on a few places actually. So I think about £7, all various different RPMs. This is one I've gone for. I think it's 5 RPM, which is controllable for sort of the movements I'm expecting. So that's that bit done, effectively. It sits just there, like all our standard ones. The next thing I'm looking at are these. So this has been the headache, getting this right. What you see there is completely wrong. So what we have is a cabled pull hinge that moves via a cable which would have gone through here, brake cable again, or gear cable. I think brake cables are thicker. This would have attached itself onto the movement of the actuator, gas strut, or the pivot on the hinge. And if I can get this, it would basically pull just like that. So as it comes up, it will pull it down. The problem is the fact that these, with the weight on there and the spring setting that I need, is so much force required to pull this that it was actually bending the bracket assembly in there. Because these hinges are plastic, also the actual hinge itself would sort of twist in itself slightly, like torque twist, and it would bind up as well. So, well actually, before I realised all that, I needed to make it so that this could latch, and that's what this finger assembly is all for. The original, I'm all over the place, the original latch, I tried to reduce the spring tension on that, but it's way too much for what I needed. So a little bit of searching, and I found these. These are push-pull, locking, unlocking latch or latching catches. And that would sit there. This is the idea that was found. That would sit there. when that comes round, what would happen is it would then just catch that, and that would pull and latch. One hand, it's not easy. And that would latch in there like that, and then unlatch, and then allow it to move. Yeah, forget that idea, all that work, because it doesn't look like it, but that was a fantastic amount of work getting that done. Doing all that I've done on this, but they're a throwaway now. So, plan B, we now have we have two free moving hinges with this is all machined as well. What's going to happen is this part of the hinge will be fixed to the bar with a grub screw going through, and it will hit a piece of flat. So that will be the fixed bit. That will be attached to this. So that's the bit that's going to move around. This is going to have a belt driven wheel, very small, I think 25mm. That will also have a 25mm wheel, and this will effectively, via a little belt, drive it around backwards or forwards. So that's that bit sorted. I've just ordered in bits off eBay. Then I can finish this hinge off and then do the bracketry to mount that. It's going to be easy. There's plenty of room. It's going to sit all the way up in there. Next bit, deck lid needs to be automated. So what we need to do something about this, we need to automate these gas struts. Lucky enough for me, with all these new cars coming with their automated tailgates, the Porsche Panamera has a gas strut not dissimilar to this one, but it's automated. They are very simple to operate. Basically, it is a gas strut, but it's got a coarse spring winding round here, and then what happens is it literally, by the actuation of a motor underneath, it twists and then pushes like a collar up. The gas strut is still there, which does all the heavy work, like basically balances the deck lid. So the electric motor just moves it up and down. Two of them, 220 quid. That's me sorted. They've got encoders, can use it with an Arduino, but I'm probably going to use micro switches, going to be a bit simpler. So that's the deck lid, that's the flaps, latch sorted. Next thing is the actual roof itself. You can obviously see a actuator, linear actuator there. There are two parts to the roof that move structurally. So you've got the pivot, main pivot that holds the whole roof, and then we've got the control which keeps the roof all together and as it should be, just there. And there's a point where I can drill through to the other side, and via an arm, which is just going to be doing this sort of thing. So effectively it will lay flat with the roof, and then that will then with an arm do this. Do that. Again, you can choose the speed and the torque setting of that linear actuator, which is going to be mounted in there, because I've got sheds of loads of room in there. It's empty. I mean, actually the poppers and the motors are going to live in there, because it's all going to come through cables through. Oh, there's one there. Hold there. So that takes care of the roof going up and down. I've done a few adjustments on this as well. I've actually made it a bit stronger, put some structural support on it. So roof going up and down, deck lift going up and down, latching, unlatching, flaps, the canvas tail fins, shark fins, whatever you call them. I've got an idea for that as well. It's going to be mounted. I've got room when it goes up and down. I can't remember where I've got room. I think it's here that I can put a pivot point, which will be, then what's going to happen is they will basically just lift up. I'm limited. My limit is from here to here, and that's the bit that I've got to address. So I've got to work out how much room I've actually got. because the tail fins will actually sit under here somewhere when it's all collapsed down like it is now. Anyway, so that's just to give you an idea of where I am and what I'm doing and the ideas. Once I start to get, because bear in mind that this was all finished until I came to doing the cable, and then I realised that it didn't work. So this is sort of half stripped down, the other side is completely stripped down, all the gears there, all the bits, brackets, cable brackets over there, there's little brackets just there, they were for the cables. So it was all done, and then total failure. But I'm not giving up. So yeah, just bear with us and I'll see how we get on in a few more weeks. I've got some, I think I've got a few days off in a few, next week or week after, so I might be able to attack this with a bit more force. Anyway, thanks a lot, and well, next video soon, I suppose.